Well, hello and welcome to the CDO magazine interview series. My name is Rehan Jalil. I'm the CEO for Security at It's a true pleasure for me to be talking to Rex Davis, who is the Chief Data Officer for RBC. Rex, welcome.
And thanks for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How are you thinking about gauging the effectiveness of your own team, and of course, taking it to the level that you may want to take it?
Well, we always measure ourselves in some shape or form against, end value, right? So that's always coming to it. I do believe one of my big metrics will be time to production, right? I think that's going to be one of my big metrics, whether it's myself or other parts. But it can take if we've got a whole, and I won't spell any secrets, right? But if we've got things that take up to a year and we get them down to 4 weeks, because I don't necessarily believe any of the length of time to production issues with an RBC or any other company come down to lack of technology talent or other parts or coding ability. I believe people can get things up very quickly. It's the approval processes that they need to go through to make sure that they're doing this in a safe and constructive way. Now, to make sure that we've covered off what we need to do from a model risk side of things or what we need to do from other parts, helping the organization work through that so that a data scientist, for example, or an AI engineer or a data engineer isn't sitting there trying to work through, have I got all the right approvals for this? This is all new, right? So is it the same as what I had previously? Do I have to go through further conversations? Getting that neat and tidy for the organization, that's vital, right? And also within that as well, precedent. So that's going to be the biggest story if we get this right. We can't have it that everyone coming with each of these individual use cases, it's the first time every single time, because it'll be the first time for a few, right? Okay, it's the first time we're putting code that's generated by non-humans, right? Fair enough. Okay, that's the process for that, right? This is something that we're doing that's eventually touching the front lines. What's our approval process? Okay, well, if we did that for that person, have we got that stored as a precedent, and can we rely on that precedent? And getting that decision-making right is going to make everything easier.
Basically creating an operating system that brings the best data that you want to utilize, structured, unstructured. And then it probably in that operating system is saying, if the gates exist, which actually can slow down, taking those, even from governance lens, from compliance lens and all, those being a security lens, those be actually accounted for. And seems like shrinking the time in this operating system to get to production fast. Well, and with the right oversight.
Yeah, well, and just use that, right? Just to give you the non-trivial issue that gets created by this. See, all these, anything that's any good in the LLM space has all been trained on has been trained on a lot of data sets that you don't see, right? So we can say that just trains on a smaller set, but it's not going to be as effective as the other part. So you're opening up a different set of conversations and a different evaluation mechanic or understanding that we didn't have before, and that's going to just take a little bit of time for us to get our heads around, and knowing that we can utilize this model in this particular way. Given that we don't know every bit and piece of how it was trained, right? Like or all the data that it was trained on, that's very different from the model evaluation techniques, for example, that would be relied on previously. So it's a lot different from knowing, okay, well, I'm checking it against this historical data set with this history, with this known thing. All right, okay, this is a little bit more complex, and it's working off 1.4 billion variables with this, and it's coming from. So yes, that's what I would agree very strongly with the point that you made.
Rex, there's a lot of collaboration needed, right? The business units, which have use cases, and everyone wants to go fast with mandates often are coming from the board and the exec, top CEOs and all. But at the same time, there are other considerations from security and governance and regulation and all. There's a variety of dynamics playing out. What's your advice on collaborating with all different stakeholders? They all see the big picture, and yet, you can move fast. What has been your learnings, and what do you advise be?
So all good CDOs are very collaborative people. You don't. I mean, you've spoken to a few of them. The data police guys never last, right? And the reason they never last is if you're just the data police guys, you come in, right? Thou shalt, thou won't, it doesn't work. You're here to. Your job is to make data lives better, and I can't take credit for that. I heard somebody else use that terminology, but I'll use my terminologies. We're here to get the care right, so that we can get the enablement right, so we can drive the value, and we're there to help. So it's important to be as we would say in RBC, a one with organization, right? I'm there with you. I'm there to help you. I'm there to make things happen, right? But within the constraints of, it's not the wild, wild west. We're a bank. We've got to make this stuff happen, and we're there to make it all work. So for effective collaborative model, we're listening to them. We're understanding that they've got a lot of good ideas that are ready to go, and we're providing the centralized resources to help make that happen. And that's and you do that with transparency, and you do that with honesty, and you do that with a lot of humor and be with them for what you're going through. And that's, I can't see a better model than that. I'll be honest with you. That is the only model that honestly works. If you're centrally funded, you be as transparent as you possibly can. You be as honest with everyone as you can. You listen to their ideas and assume that they know as much as you do. You might have some expertise, but they've got very, very good client insight because they're very close to the clients. And you work together to make it happen. Their teams, your teams are their teams to operate it. They understand that you're all working on it. You're keeping a very open door. That's the model that works.
Absolutely. And particularly, I think you have to also work with other teams which are maybe they have more to block things, right? Or they have to kind of really check things in, like the cybersecurity team, your privacy teams, your compliance teams. They have a charter to make sure that they're appropriate safety guardrails around the same data. And
yeah, but back to my enablement point, right? The trick with this is to make sure that you get run with precedent. You can't just be operating the whole way that every single time we're doing it, it's the first time. You've got to get your patterns right. Now, if I get better at this, I haven't got there yet, is to get to that white glove service that goes with it as well. So you're walking through with them and saying, right, you've got this idea, you've got this Gen AI idea, we're going to help you get it through to the end point. And this is what we need to do along the way. And I think that's when you really have mastered it. You're taking them through, and you're getting there, and we're all celebrating this together. And sometimes as well, like I have data scientists as part of my team, we're moving heads and other parts directly into that strategic initiative to move it on quicker, because it's going to have benefits to the rest of the group as well, because we've helped solve that.
It's along these lines, in the recent past, are there any things that come to your mind to say, look, a few initiatives that you took, and anything that you can share with our CDO community that really impacted the organization? And I'm sure there are many, but maybe some.
I just do something fairly simple, right? Like that's the other part. You might have things or activities that you don't jump up and down with, but just for us, taking our marketing mix models to the next levels. Marketing mix models have been around for ages. We got access to a new data set that we're able to utilize. We lifted to a new level. It massively helped our marketing team understand where their brand spend and everything was going. Now again, I don't want to overplay it technically or other parts, and I don't want to underplay, particularly if some of my team that were working on that project are watching it. But its impact was huge. And again, it's not as if we're taking stuff that, marketing mix models have been around for a long time, but implementing it with the right data at the right time, with a very, very enthused internal client, was a huge help. So, I mean, I'm just using that as one small example in the very recent past of how you create value. And you can be creating value on things that you you know what I mean? We've got all sorts of other models that are going forward with our friends in capital markets and other parts, but particularly just using that as an example of straightforward value creation. I couldn't be happier.
Well, on that high note, I'd really like to thank you, Rex, for joining us today. And this video will be available, and you can see that at CDO magazine. Thank you so much for taking time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.